Well, if we needed any more evidence, maybe here's some. The profound effects of former President Biden's horrible policies on the border, along with his person that he put in charge of it, his Vice President, Kamala Harris. New census data provide more evidence, showing that the foreign-born population of the United States exploded to a record 15.8%. 8.3 million of those came into the country during Biden's 4 years in office. Now, that's consistent with how many we knew were coming in. Look at the number who were illegal. That's more than, wow, 5.4 million. Now, you compare that to the last time they looked at the record, which was set in 1890. The country is changing. And again, legal immigration has always been part of the greatness of our country. That's not what we're talking about at all. New federal numbers also show the Trump administration's success on border security, one of the things that got him in the White House. A bipartisan, all-partisan issue, I might add. ICE arrested nearly 33,000 illegal aliens during President Trump's first 50 days in office. Some 14,000 are convicted criminals. Nearly 10,000 have pending charges. Now, you've heard me say time and time again, they were convicted criminals when they broke our law to come into the country illegally. Now they've broken further laws. All of this comes as Immigration Customs Enforcement and DHS officials are accusing the Biden White House of, quote, cooking the books on their arrest data. Here's border czar under Trump, Tom Homan.
President Trump and the whole team, we got beds being built in the Guantanamo Bay. We're up to 30,000 beds in Guantanamo Bay. I got hundreds of sheriffs coming to me wanting us to buy their beds in their jails. So the sheriffs are stepping up. We got more 287G agreements now, Sean, than we've ever had in the history of this nation. So we're going to keep moving. President Trump did in 3 weeks, but Joe Biden couldn't do in 4 years.
Where there's a will, there's a way. Let's take a look at this. It is one of the most dangerous, treacherous stretches of landscape to get to this country. The Darien Gap. Many people die along the trail there. There were 408 crossings through there last month. Now, there are ways to go around it, but can you even imagine? If we know that number of how many came through, how many didn't make it? That's a massive drop from August 2023. You ready for this? 82,000. If 408 still sounds like a lot because many of them are children who are being carried, we know that from the reporting that's gone on. 82,000? How many people died trying to get here? I mean, this is huge evidence against the Biden-Harris administration that they weren't just derelict in their duties. They were deadly dangerous. I want to go now to Brooke Taylor, who's live in Dallas, Texas, with more on this. Brooke.
Hi, Harris. Well, DHS and ICE leaders say that right now, just in the first 50 days as President Trump was under office, they say that these top officials say that they're dealing with a massive problem because of this. Detention facilities are at full capacity, maxed out with 47,600 detainees because, as you just mentioned there, they're outpacing those arrest numbers that we saw under the Biden administration. So senior officials say that they're working with the Defense Department for more bed space, but they would also need more funding from Congress, as we see going on right now. The senior DHS and ICE officials also giving us new arrest numbers, as you mentioned. Check this out. During President Trump's first 50 days in office, ICE arrested roughly 32,800 illegal aliens. Of those arrests, senior leaders say around 14,000 were convicted criminals. Nearly 10,000 have pending criminal charges, and the remaining were in the United States illegally. DHS has not said how many of those have been deported. We have been pressing them. Senior leaders, though, also accusing the Biden administration of misleading the public regarding their ICE arrest numbers and, quote, cooking the books. Check out what ICE Director Todd Lyons had to say about this. He said, quote, ICE found tens of thousands of cases that were recorded as arrests when in fact the illegal aliens were simply processed and then released into American communities. I've been trying to reach out to former DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to get his response to these claims. I haven't heard back, but he previously blamed Congress for issues during a Senate hearing last year. Listen.
Our immigration system, however, is fundamentally broken. Only Congress can fix it. Congress has not updated our immigration enforcement laws since 1996, 28 years ago.
And sources tell Fox News that nationwide gotaways across the border right now are averaging about 77 in just the last few weeks. Harris, that is a lot lower than we have seen. These gotaways, as we know, are illegal migrants who successfully are able to evade Border Patrol agents.
That's incredible. Nationwide. You would see that in just a matter of minutes standing down at the Rio Grande sector. I mean, I remember those days. And they weren't that long ago. Brooke Taylor, thank you. I want to bring in Gianno Caldwell, Fox News political analyst. Look, if anybody needs a litmus test on how to make major change in your first 52 days, this must be it. Like, if you want to be president,
Absolutely.
This is what you have to do. You have to keep your promise on the issues particularly that protect American sovereignty and lives. Gianno.
100%. And I think back to a poll from Gallup in July last year where 55% of the respondents wanted immigration levels reduced. We know the official number for those who've crossed over into our country illegally is around 8 million, but some experts put it at potentially 11 to 17 million. And when we look at the facts of the newborns that have been created out of those who've come over, it brings a bit of gravitas to the notion that people said maybe this wasn't just a dereliction of duty from Biden and the Democrats. Maybe this was intentional. That's a consideration that I think many Americans have at this particular point, especially knowing that budgets in cities like Chicago, New York, and all over the country have been stretched thin, trying to accommodate those who've come into our country illegally. This is something that the American people wanted stopped, and Donald Trump is doing exactly that.
Wow. Look, I also want to concentrate on this Darien Gap. I mean, it's something that you'll hear. It's National Geographic reporting, and we know about it. It's a 60-mile stretch of dense, roadless jungle on the border. And as people go through, women and children, what have been left behind, according to the reporting, are things like shoes and evidence that human beings were there. We don't know. With 82,000 people coming through at the height in August of 23, we have no idea who was able to traverse that. It sits on the northern border of Colombia in southern Panama's Darien province. It's some of the most treacherous earth on the planet. And Gianno, look at it now. It's 408. Again, this is example number one for change.
Yeah, 100%. And not only that, those who may not have survived, gotten over, that may not have made it, but then those that did come over, many criminals, people who brought drugs. Donald Trump was right about that. We've had many Americans who were slaughtered because of the folks that have come over illegally. We know the fact that the fentanyl that comes from China through Mexico, we've seen that as well. So Americans are hurting in blood and treasure, and that's why this needed to stop. Now the question is, do these elected officials like Kathy Hochul in New York, Brandon Johnson in Chicago, and many of these other folks who, these sanctuary city mayors, are they willing to do what it takes to protect their citizens? And if not, Tom Homan must make good on his promise to prosecute those elected officials who will not follow the law.
Gianno Caldwell, thank you very much for being in focus.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.